I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Friday, September 27th, 2024. Fridays, we have the Healing Circle. And we also promise you what we call robust conversation. We get engaged and we enjoy that. Let me begin by bringing on my co-host and co-facilitator, the leader of the Healing Circle Project, and that is Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya. We call her Dr. B. She's the principal at the African American Child Wellness Institute and is on a mission. It's a mission that I support wholeheartedly, and that is the health of our people and the belief that our children deserve to be protected and to prosper, and that we have an obligation to do what's required to make it so. Dr. B, good afternoon and welcome once again. You have to unmute.
Good afternoon, Baba Al, and all of our viewers. I am so excited once again to be here to bring us together in our healing circle, bringing joy and love and peace and wholeness so that we can all just claim what is rightfully ours from our Creator. So
let's do this before we do the protocol. Why don't we bring our two first guests on so that all of us are sort of encircle on the screen. We have two powerful, fierce Black women on the program, in addition to you, right? Joining you, our fierce leader. And that those two are Rosalind Harmon and April Graves, the mayors of Golden Valley, Minnesota. Rosalind is, and the mayor of Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. April, come on in. There we go. And we start welcome, Madam Mayor and Madam Mayor. We start with a certain protocol. Dr. B's going to do that right now.
Yeah, welcome, my beautiful sisters. It's just so wonderful. I let me just say this: nobody has done it, but I'm claiming this is the year of the Black woman. And I'm just claiming that right now, that the power we bring, the healing strength we bring, the fact that the earth was born from the womb of a Black woman, everybody here is connected to us in spirit and is right in line with the healing circle belief. We believe first that we meet in a circle, and though the circle may not be physical and virtual in this case, we're all imagining ourselves in this space in a circle. And the reason we meet in a circle, and African people do, is because there's no beginning or end, no top or bottom. Everyone in the circle has equal voice, equal access to the place of power, which is the center of the circle. And in that circle, as we have voice, we honor our elders. We honor them because they are the shoulders that we stand on. We stand on their shoulders and we sit here, the embodiment of hopes and dreams and desires and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. We sit here, the embodiment of centuries and generations of dreams. So here in this present space of power, we sit honoring the shoulders. Then we honor our ancestors, because our ancestors are the shoulders that our elders stood on. And by the same token, we honor them because they are also closest to our Creator. So in this space of honoring elders, honoring Creator, we have various beliefs that this sacred space is safe. So I ask people to just inhale and exhale, letting the day's worries leave you as you sit there in a space of power. As we inhale, exhale, peace and joy cover us. I ask you to look to your left. Notice that you're safe. Look to your right. Notice you're safe. Look behind you. Notice you're safe. Feel your chair beneath you, holding up all the power you bring, holding the hope, the dreams, the aspirations of our people. And in this circle, we are orderly. For African people are orderly. And we use a talking stick. And this, in our case, is a virtual talking stick. So the way it works, we pass it from one speaker to the other, so everyone has a chance to have voice. If the spirit moves and you need the stick, honey, ask for the stick. It shall be given to you. So as we do this process and we learn and get educated and loved together, let's just welcome you, saying Ashe, our creator, Ashe to our sisters and brothers who are shoulders that we stand on, Ashe to our ancestors. And with that, I give the talking stick to Baba Al. Here you go, brother. You got the stick.
Thank you, Dr. B. Well, this is a wonderful way to ground the meeting that we have, the conversations that we have. So I'm pleased to have two mayors, the mayor of Brooklyn Center and the mayor of Golden Valley. Welcome to you both. And let me say that our intent today is twofold. One is to engage you as surrogates for the Harris Walz campaign. You're on the trail helping people understand the stakes, the issues, and the value and the need to register, to show up, to vote. So I want you to talk about what you are saying to your neighbors, your constituents, your networks as a surrogate, and then what that means personally for you as a mayor. But I also want to take this opportunity to have you both talk about your experience as mayors of your cities and what the challenges are, what your expectations were, and what the progress has been towards what you envisioned as mission as you took on the responsibility, the mantle of leadership and service in your community. So let me start with April, the mayor of Brooklyn Center. April, Madam Mayor, so good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Al. It's always a pleasure to be in space with you. As you said, I was elected mayor. I'm going on 2 years ago after two 4-year terms as a council member. And, I think I kind of had a fairly good idea of what to expect in the role. Although I will say that it has been even more work than I anticipated. And it's been hard. I think just on a personal level, balancing the responsibilities of being a mother, a single mother, of working full-time in the city of Minneapolis as a public health specialist, and then also being mayor. And a lot of the time it's about sort of educating folks and somewhat tempering expectations. A lot of people don't even understand sort of the structure of government in the city. And so a lot of the time is sort of educating folks on what is my role, what is within my scope and influence, and what also they can do to try to build buy-in or influence policy by talking to some of the other council members. So it's been difficult, but I think I'm doing a good job. One of the main things that I really strive to do in my role as mayor was to bring people together. We've had a lot of I would say division, a lot of trauma that has been experienced in Brooklyn Center. And my background really is around, doing the kind of healing work that needs to happen, both first and foremost personally, and then also in community, whether that's from, systemic violence or interpersonal violence in other forms. And so it's been a lot. There's days when I feel extremely tired. I've noticed too that, after council meetings, holding that space, although I think I do it well, and I always have sort of a feeling of accomplishment afterwards, it's very draining. The next day, I'm not very good at showing up for some of my other responsibilities. So a big part of continuing to do the work is making sure that I'm taking good care of myself.
And so right now we're moving headlong into a major inflection point for the nation and the world with the November election. What do you see as an elected and as a healthcare provider? What do you see you can do to help citizens understand what is at stake and how we should mobilize. How do you resist and challenge those ideas that say, oh, it's going to happen however it happens and my voice doesn't count? What do you say to people to get them excited, motivated, and help them develop a sense of equity and ownership of the process?
Well, I think I remind folks of our ancestors and how hard they had to fight for the right to vote, as well as some of the more contemporary examples of people that were disenfranchised, that people have advocated to get those rights back, like for folks who had previous uh, law enforcement or charges, criminal charges on their record. I also talk about, if you're excited about some of these local candidates, or even myself, if you're happy with the job that I've been doing, you should definitely think about the effect you can have at the national level as well. Maybe you do feel like, oh, it's just one vote, it doesn't matter. And I empathize with folks' frustration with like the two-party system, so I don't negate some of those real concerns and frustrations. But I really try to remind them of what's at stake. I even share with them that, the first time that Trump was on the ballot, I really didn't think that there was any way he could win. I really did not believe that there was going to be that many people that would be so disillusioned. And I learned myself that was not the case. I think it's even more important now, after we're still sort of, I think, coming through a period of recovery after COVID, and especially in Minnesota, the civil unrest that was experienced after the murder of George Floyd, that we have to continue to push forward, even though we're tired, and we have to continue to work across different efforts and build more collaboration, more coalitions of like-minded folks who maybe didn't see themselves in one another, but have aligned interests. So that's really what I talk to people about. I try to have empathy for their frustration. I can sympathize with them and recognize that I've definitely been there before. The first time I really got engaged and went to a caucus was when Obama first ran. And I wasn't super engaged in local politics until I decided to run for the city council. And I didn't really learn that from anyone besides sort of myself and just jumping in feet first. But I definitely feel like there's space to make a difference, whether you're in an elected role or not. And the more people that we can connect with and build relationships with and build an understanding of what we share, as well as, how we're different, the better off we're all going to be.
You can pass the talking stick to anybody.
I'll pass it to Mayor Harmon.
Thank you. I love this. I absolutely love this because this platform right here, I mean, you're talking about women who do healing in their day life, right? And regular day job on top of running a city. And so it's such an honor to sit on this platform. I am new to this field as mayor of Golden Valley. I did not see this coming. I was kind of like Barack Obama just coming in out of nowhere when Hillary was running. I mean, we just didn't see it coming. And yet here I am. I am, an educator, 25 years, mental health practitioner. I've sat with Dr. Bravada and several. There's a board for African Americans who are mental health practitioners. But as mayor, I think, and also in my daytime job as executive director for Dispute Resolution Center, where I am a restorative practitioner holding circles as a circle keeper and training folks on circle practices, that's one of the main reasons why I ran, was for Golden Valley to be a restorative city and for us to adopt the restorative and the circle principles from the top all the way down, because it's so key when doing this work in leadership with the police department, right? In terms of housing, no matter what the area, it fits. And it fits because there's conflict in all of these different areas that can cause division really quickly, right? And so it's so important for all voices to know that they are seen and that they're heard but that we want it to be done in a way that's respectful and that's healthy, right? And so as we look at this race, I tell you, I'm also a delegate, and this was my first time being involved with the DFL convention and going as a delegate and just really sitting down and seeing the process. That I did not go forward to be a part of the national convention because I thought, okay, well, Biden, he's got this, right? And then as we started to see the debates and the decline in the way that he was, speaking out of nowhere, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, Trump cannot take this race. What is happening? And then literally out of nowhere. And for someone who is a spiritual person like me, woo, that midnight hour, right? At the drop of a dime, late in the midnight hour, right? And here we have Kamala and Walz. And I mean, there is no better candidate than Walz. He is all American. When you're talking about a husband, an educator, a coach, and then he can sympathize with, reproductive rights because he and his wife, they're going through it. So he's all American. So he's ready. They are both ready for this position and for this time. And as Dr. Bravada said, this is the time for the woman, right? And so I'm so excited, not only for the woman, but for women of color, for us to really be in position as leaders. And so I'm excited, but we have work to do. We have work to do. And so I'm getting the notifications on my phone constantly, right? You have so many platforms where people are rooting for Kamala and Walz, but we have to be activated on a local level. It starts right here in our cities, knocking on doors, making those phone calls, right? Doing whatever we can. And like, Mayor Graves shared, it's hard because people are tired and people feel like, especially brown and Black people, we feel like, how is our vote really making a difference when we're still struggling and we're still traumatized and we're still going through what we're going through? I'm tired. Enough is enough, right? And yet I wouldn't be here. I would not be sitting here. We would not be sitting here if it was not for us saying, hey, your vote matters. I won by 26 votes. So I tell you, at the last minute, that midnight hour,
you know what it means.
that was a part of the 26. And so I truly believe that with this campaign, we have to continue to spread the word and to make sure that people are ready and that the voter registration is available. When I was running on my campaign, I had it on my website. It popped up. Register here to vote if you are not registered. I was with my goddaughters yesterday in the car, taking them shopping for homecoming. And I'm like, well, the little one, but their older sisters were with them. And I said, y'all got to vote. Make sure you vote. You're 18 now. You've got to vote. And if you need help to register, I'm here to help you because it's very simple. It's very easy. So it's important. And so that awareness is so key because it starts here. It really starts here locally in order for us to make that impact nationally.
Let me ask a question of Dr. B and both of the mayors. I am just thinking about Joe Biden when he selected and invited Vice President Harris to join his ticket as vice president. He called himself a transformational campaign and presidency. And I don't think that we realized the full impact of that. I think maybe people thought that after 8 years, she'd be in position. But lo and behold, the transformation was in the twinkling of an eye. It was at the midnight hour, as you said, Rosalind. And so that transformation sort of is the hallmark and the earmark of what is happening at the national level. Well, that is totally, from my point of view, in alignment with what happened and what is happening here in Minnesota. So you have, again, a visionary, ordinary man. He's a basic, decent human being. He's a guy. He's a teacher. He's a dad. He's a gun owner, right? He likes to joke around. He likes to, crack on people. He's a good guy. And he chose Peggy Flanagan, an indigenous sister, to be his lieutenant governor. And when he was picked to join the Harris team, it set in place a dynamic of dominoes that is phenomenal for the state of Minnesota.
Yes.
The potential for a Native American governor, and that leading to the potential for Bobby Joe Champion as the first Black lieutenant governor. And so this question of the year, the time, the age of the Black woman, Dr. B, how does this all look to you right now? How does it feel to you? And what we going to do with this?
Ooh, I'm telling you, the world will never be the same when Black women and women of color, women of color in general, but especially our Black sisters, when we step into that space, carrying our own vision, our own wholeness, because our visions encompass wellness for everyone. We have never been raised in an I. We've been raised in a we. We know how to build family. We know how to build community. We know how to build nations. So when we think about what's about to happen, I feel like, just like we've said earlier, that African people work in orderly ways. So does the God I serve. So this happened. I hear my sister say, it's unbelievable. It's because this was a divine appointment for both of them to be in the space they are right now doing what they're doing. Because I believe with my whole spirit and everything in me that the world will never be the same. Once we elect Kamala Harris, a sister of the Divine Nine, a sister in all kinds of ways, where she believes that we all have a right to be well. She believes we all have a right to have power. She believes we all have a right to go beyond surviving to thriving. What can I say? She could have no better surrogates than living legends right here, sitting here. Young sisters got it going on. They're telling us, they're foreshadowing that this world's going to change. Because these sisters that we got on this panel, they're the embodiment of hopes and dreams. And I'm telling you right now, can't mess with them because they got it going on. So that's, if you ask me what I think, that's what I think. I'm telling you. And it's not just what I think, it's what I know. So with that, I guess I can give the talking stick to my sister April and see what she feels about all this Black womanist power that we're sharing and what we have common shared vision for all people to be well. So sister, here you got the stick.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited about it. I remember when I first started as a council member, that was when I first met our Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, actually at I think it was the legislative breakfast that they do for sort of like the Northwest suburbs. Typically it's hosted in Crystal. And so I was really excited for her when she became our Lieutenant Governor. I was excited to see her doing things like being human up on the pulpit, singing Prince songs, I think we definitely need more spaces like that. Where people can really show up fully as themselves, as human beings, and to show some vulnerability, because I think that that's part of what's missing in the conversations that we're having and why spaces like this, like circles, are so important. But I've seen so much happening in Minnesota since 2015 when I first took office. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and the rise that she's had, the movement of Keith Ellison into a bigger role, and multiple different other people of color in different cities being elected to leadership positions, both at like an administrative level within city enterprises, as well as at elected officials. And I just feel super excited that I've been part of that process and part of that history. I feel like so many of us have been disillusioned and feel like a lot of the time people don't even know who is representing them. And I feel like that's really started to change in my mind under Obama. It got all of us excited. I was most excited just about how he brought so many different people from different walks of life together and got people excited about being civically engaged again. And even though the last, 4 to 8 years have been really difficult years, I think, both in our country as well as politically, I'm also the kind of person that understands that you kind of need sort of this push and pull, the light and the dark, the hot and the cold, the conflict, the friction, to push us out of our comfort zones, to push us to make the changes that we need to make. And so even though it's been uncomfortable and it's been exhausting, I know that it's not for nothing. And we just have to keep pushing through and holding the faith that we know that our efforts will not be in vain.
Ooh, that's what I'm talking about.
I'll pass it to Mayor Harmon again.
I mean, shoot, preach, like, right? That's the truth. That's the truth, because this is no easy feat. It's very challenging, and it's even more challenging for us because of the color of our skin, right? And it's hard because I think some folks want to see the angry Black woman, and it's like, I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to give you that because that's what you want, right? But one thing is for sure, you're not going to disrespect me, right? You're not going to disrespect me, but I'm not going to give you the angry Black woman, but I am going to have grace, and I'm going to come with this, because I think the challenge for me is, I think everyone knows I never adapted to politics. I never felt that I was a politician, right? We all have some politics in us, but I'm learning, and I'm a quick learner. But for me, it wasn't really about politics with this race. It was about the people. And I see that with Kamala. She's saying, I'm here for you, right? And typically in politics, it's always for a bigger agenda. And I think folks just want to know, are our leaders for us? Are you meeting us where we're at? Do you understand that, I'm going through some things and I just want my voice to be heard? Just hear me, listen to me, walk with me in this. And I truly believe that the two of them are the best people to be able to do that for our country. But I know for me to be able just to find balance, to make sure that, I'm my best to be able to do this. And I know Mayor Graves spoke about this earlier, but that is a challenge, because working a full-time job on top of mayor, which feels like a full-time job, right? I'm not a parent, but I'm doing so much that, I have to put myself first. And so it's hard, but, like you said, Dr. Bravada, God's got us, and all is good. We're here for a reason. And so I'm just excited just to see where this takes all of us, because this is exciting, right? To see Lieutenant Flanagan, as well as Bobby Joe Champion, Mayor Carter, and for the Twin Cities to have 5 Black mayors. Come on now. Come on now. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
Well, listen, let me take the talking stick back just to say how wonderful it is to hear your voices and to hear your passion. And you are an example in my mind, Dr. B. I'm saying in agreement with you that these fearless leaders are the transformation we're looking for, that they embody and they represent, and that they walk as transformers, and that they walk as healers. And that is the power that is being deployed in the world right now. And they have the power in them, and in them we see and feel and know the power of change. So Mayor Graves, Mayor Harmon, thank you so very much for your leadership, your service in the city. And we'll talk to you later on. I want to pivot now and bring in.
Wait a minute before you pivot. I'm not ready to pivot yet.
Right.
I just want to say personally to both of our Madam Mayors, keep on keeping on.
That's right.
Shine your light. Be you, do you. You are divinely appointed to this space and time. Walk in your power. You will not walk alone. You will have an army of people, all diverse backgrounds, all ages, all types, following you. You know why? Because you are queens and you act like it. You carry yourselves like it. I'm too proud of you. Not so too proud. I mean, I'm telling you. So you just keep up the good work. I couldn't let him say bye without me saying that. I want to put that on the show, on the record. I'm saying these sisters are the bomb, and anybody who doesn't feel like they are, you need to come see me. I'll give you a free psyche eval because I know for a fact this sister's got it going on. So I'm just saying, bye, come back. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You.
Well, this is awesome, and it sets up the balance of the program. Another fierce leader joins us for the balance of the program, talking about some recent events and upcoming events, but important issues for families and reproductive rights. Ruth Richardson is a former member of the Minnesota House of Representatives. She served from 2019 to 2023. She's a member of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party representing District 52B in the southeastern Twin Cities metro area that included cities of Eagan, Mendota Heights, and parts of Dakota County, Minnesota. She's a graduate of the University of Minnesota with a bachelor's degree in history and sociology, and she also graduated from the William Mitchell College of Law with a Juris Doctor. She previously was the Director of Programs and National Strategic Initiatives for Minnesota Organization on Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, and she was the CEO of Wayside Recovery Center. Presently, and that's why we've invited her today, she is the CEO of Planned Parenthood North Central States. I'm still going to call her representative or president. Welcome, Sister Ruth. How are you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's always good to see both of you.
Oh, goodness.
Well,
this is like a birthday present to me. This sister, I absolutely love her. She's got everything any Black leader should want to aspire to be. I'm going to let you take the question, but I cannot let you go like I don't know and love this sister right here. She is mine. I claim her everywhere. Okay, you got the stick back, Dr. Bye-bye.
Well, I just want to invite you in, Sister Ruth, and talk about your work at Planned Parenthood for North Central States. And you recently had a Black Babies, I think, what was it called? The Black and Brown Birth Summit. Talk about that, sort of give us an idea of what happened and what the importance is, and put that in the context of, the need to create more awareness about families and reproductive rights, et cetera. So I'm gonna just pass the talking stick to you, and you can flow wherever you want to go. My role will be to ask questions, to punctuate, and to clarify. So I'm passing the talking stick to you, Sister Ruth Richardson.
All right. Well, thank you. We were a very proud sponsor of the 5th annual Black and Brown Birthing Summit. So the Wilder African American Babies Coalition are deep, I call us radical partners with Planned Parenthood North Central States. And the summit is an opportunity to bring together researchers, to bring the people who are doing the ground on the work, so in terms of thinking about that day-to-day practice, and also bring together policymakers to really have deep conversations around not only where we've come, but like what we're headed to as well. And the summit kicked off with a pre-conference that was focused around home visiting, thinking about domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And I also think that it's really important when we're having these conversations about birthing and about sexual and reproductive health care, people oftentimes boil it down to this conversation just around abortion. Are you for it? Are you against it? Not really recognizing the full range of access to sexual and reproductive health care, and also thinking about the intersections, because with the Dobbs decision, it's been 2 years, right, since Roe was overturned. There were a number of things that were forecasted and predicted as a result of overturning Roe v. Wade. One was that intimate partner violence and domestic violence was going to increase. It has. In fact, nationally, there was 100% increase in reports of reproductive coercion after the Dobbs decision. Maternal mortality was projected to increase. It has, right? Infant mortality was projected to increase. It has. And so as part of the summit, we're talking about those things, right? Cutting off access to a full range of sexual and reproductive health care, including abortion care, it doesn't just cut off access to abortion care, it cuts off access to cancer screenings. It cuts off access to STI testing and treatment, and a whole host of other things as well. And so at the summit, we got to talk about what's going on in research, what's going on in day-to-day practice, and also reflected on the last 2 years at the Capitol, which was really historic in a number of ways in terms of a number of bills that were passed of importance, including paid family and medical leave, which I will just say I was proud to carry that bill across the finish line. I was one in the line of many that carried that bill, as it took over a decade to get that passed into law. The African American Family Preservation Act finally got over the finish line last year, and so many people touched that bill over the years to get it to where it is. So have to call out Rep. Agbaje, Senator Champion, and Commissioner Rena Moran. The fact that it took 10 years, over 10 years, to get people to say, like, hey, before we remove a child from a family, let's see if they have relatives or kin that can care for, like, should not be controversial, but yet, here we are. But also just thinking about the ways that we've moved the needle in terms of first steps to ensure we're addressing the preventable maternal health crisis that we're seeing in the Black community.
You can pass the talking stick to either one of us, or
I want the stick. Can I have it?
I have to give it to Dr. Bravada.
There you go. There you go.
He knows he'll give the stick to me too if I want it. So it's just we have equal access to the center of the circle. So
that's right.
So what I also want to say is, while you're talking about helping Black children and families, Black moms, I also want to say for us to establish and support the African American Child Wellness Institute. And through that, Marua Moms, which is dedicated to mothers who have chemical addictions as well as mental health disorders diagnosed, who are pregnant and parenting. So these women who are pregnant, they get prenatal support, just like she's saying, but they get support for their mental health, and how that the inflection between mental health and pregnancy, medicines they can't take anymore. How do they take care of their stress? How do they take the medicines they've got to take? How do they comply? And then, as you're saying, the increase in domestic violence, the increase in just disrespect of Black bodies, Black babies, Black mothers. How do they handle that? So because of her, even right now, we have one of our programs called, which you're honorary member of, is called Project Marua, with Marua meaning in Swahili, respect. Project Marua parents right now are going to class every Saturday morning. 17 of them. And no, almost 20 of them. I forgot, we got 2 more. 19 parents coming to learn how to be better at their job so they don't have their kids catching cases in child protection. So there are huge ripple effects of having this sister in power. It's ripple effects of having her voice centered in all communities across Minnesota. She shows us, she tells us, she teaches us that we have a right to be well. Our babies have a right to be well. Our moms in our communities have a right to be well. So, sister, all I can say on behalf of all of those parents who will come and make sure all they do is vote. They make sure they do vote when it's time. And because one of these Saturdays after class, we're going to get us a bus. I'm just telling you now, we're going to get us a bus and take sisters to vote and register if they haven't. So the class is held at Urban League. I want to make sure that our listeners know they can sign up. I also want people to know we're registering voters right now at the Urban League. I want people to know that this sister right here, she's a catalyst for change. She doesn't have to do all the changing. She makes you want to change. That's what I wanted to say. So I'll give a stick back to you, Sister Ruth. But I could not help but give that infomercial because I know you won't say it about yourself. I'll say it for you.
Well, and I'm so glad that you lifted up mental health, because we also provide mental health services as well. And when we're thinking about that full range of healthcare, and I also think about, I also carried the Emmett Till Legacy Recovery Act bill as well. And worked with Miss Deborah on that, because really thinking about ways of centering healing within our communities, and just recognizing, we carry the trauma, right? We carry the trauma in our DNA. Mm-hmm. And as we think about being catalysts for change, and we think about the important work that is ahead of us, it's that reminder that we all have to do that internal work too. To be in a good place to really support our communities. So I really appreciate that about you too, because you check on me in the background to make sure that I'm caring for myself as well. And I appreciate that, because this work, as you all know, is heavy work.
Let me jump in and ask you, Ruth, to give Planned Parenthood North Central States 101, because some people may have a vague idea or no idea. And I wanted you to talk about the vision, the scope, the work, so that people can be conversant, right? So that our vocabulary includes a knowledge of processes and systems and opportunity to support our community and our families, and the whole question of our health broadly.
Yeah, so to just give you a quick overview of Planned Parenthood North Central States, we work in 3 areas. We work within healthcare, education, and advocacy. And from a healthcare perspective, we provide access to abortion care, mental health services, vasectomies, STI testing and treatment, cancer screenings. We do complex gynecological services. We just introduced this year fertility treatments, and we've also introduced menopause care, and we are getting ready to introduce prenatal and postnatal care as well. On the education front, not only are we educating parents and patients, but youth as well. We have teen councils really helping to build that next level of youth leadership. And let me tell you, as I'm spending time with these youth, and I see where these youth are in high school And I'm like, okay, light years ahead of where I was
Mm.
when I was in high school. And it gives me so much hope for the future to see the level of engagement with these youth. And I love, Dr. B, that you were talking about getting folks registered to vote. That is something that we are focused on as well. And in Minnesota, now that kids can be registered at 16, getting them registered to vote early is really critical as well. And then also thinking about the advocacy work that we do. And, we talked a lot about the really important bills that were passed. But I want to take a moment to lift up one other area within healthcare that we focus on. It's our research.
Mm.
And our research team has been very important and instrumental in truly being a community-led sort of research arm. One example of really important research that came out, one of our researchers, Asha Hassan, she, after George Floyd was murdered in 2020, and in the midst of the civil unrest and just the deep trauma and heaviness and everything that was going on, she was seeing people put on social media that had been exposed to tear gas during some of the protests. They were talking about some of the symptoms that they were experiencing. So under her leadership, there was a research study that was commissioned that found a link between exposure to tear gas and spontaneous menstruation. And
Wow.
so really understanding I think people don't often understand the breadth and the depth of the work that we do, and how it is so connected to so many things as that we think about as the social determinants of health that have those connections to building really healthy communities.
When your title is Planned Parenthood North Central States, so it's easy to just think about Twin Cities in Minnesota. Talk about the broad geography of your mission.
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover 5 states. So Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. In terms of the 4 states outside of Minnesota, pretty hostile to the work that we are doing on a day-to-day basis. So
Are those all red besides Minnesota?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, oftentimes people will ask me, how's it going? It's like, just fighting people on all fronts, like every single one. But I think that in terms of our reach, we really reach people nationally because with the restrictive abortion bans that we have seen pop up all over the country since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we've had over 100% increase in the number of people traveling from outside of our region to get care here. People from as far away as Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, New Orleans, just understanding that there are so many barriers that are being put up to people getting access to care. And as I think about like what happened in Georgia, within the last week, and thinking about like the story of Amber Thurman, for example, it is
tell the story so people.
Yeah, so we've seen, when I talked at the top of this around how with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, people forecasted that we were going to see more maternal mortality, and we are. And Amber Thurman, his story is just one of too many stories, recognizing that when individuals are afraid to seek care in their home states, don't have the ability or the means or the time to travel to other states in order to get access to the life-saving care that they need, they're losing their lives. And Amber's death is one that the Maternal Mortality Committee in Georgia has said was a preventable death. So we're seeing people right now die because they've had miscarriages and can't get access to get a DNC because people are being told that they need to go bleed out in their cars, wait till they're septic to come back into a hospital and get care. And I want to be like really clear because because like oftentimes people are not recognizing the ways that the stories behind kind of these newspaper articles, like this real impact of losing a loved one, and also the criminalization of Black women is increasing with this as well. Recognizing that people are having miscarriages. Some are going to the hospital to get care, and they're being turned away from that care, going home, having miscarriages in their bathrooms, and then being arrested. That's the landscape that we find ourselves in right now. And it completely does not have to be this way. And whenever I talk about this maternal mortality crisis or the infant mortality crisis that we have that disproportionately impacts our community, I always tell people this is a manufactured crisis.
Yes, it is.
Because these deaths are preventable. The vast majority of them are wholly preventable. So it is incumbent on us and on these systems to not only recognize that this is preventable, but to actually take the steps to prevent these things from happening.
Dr. B?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing that up, that it is preventable. And I think the most troubling part is that when women become septic, I like using the word blood poisoning. Because it seems like regular people understand your blood is being poisoned. You get blood poisoning when you have unexpelled dead cells in your womb or in your body. And making sure that people understand that. Because one day I was sitting with a young lady, she said, "What is septic?" I said, "Oh, now let me tell you." So I really want to break it down to people know that you wouldn't be walking around with a spleen still in your body if it had burst or any other organ. And that's what people got to understand. And it just is really, really scary because it reminds me of slavery. And the reason it does is that if they can revert one right, what's going to stop them from reverting others? What's going to stop them to saying, because they're controlling people's bodies. That's what slavery was, controlled our bodies. And now there is another form, not just of Black women's body, but everybody's body. And we know that from some of the previous discussions from educators have talked about the fact that the push toward Planned Parenthood being shut down is so we can have more white babies in America. They don't care if we lose other kind of babies. We want to increase this white population so that they won't become a minority. But already fearing that BIPOC people are the majority in the world. Most people in the world look like us. The world is populated by more people of a majority cultures who look like people of color. So I'm appreciating what you're saying. I'm glad you're teaching what you're teaching. And I hope that more of our brothers and sisters who happen to be white, who don't have that fear of sharing the earth, will speak up and support what you're doing. So I give you the talking stick, sister, because it's almost going to be the last word, and I'm going to let you drop the mic.
Well, okay, so as a history major...
We got about 5 minutes, so take your time.
We do good, but then she doesn't have to drop it.
Take your time.
But as a history major, you are talking my language because people really need to understand the roots of where we are right now. This is not new. And when you go back to the basic elements of this being about control, and after the slave trade was banned, and we know that people continue to break that law, but what became really important when folks that looked like us were enslaved and we were chattel, they wanted to increase. So they wanted to coerce, right, procreation. And then you had these phases that we went through where it was, let's sterilize Black women without their consent. And I think about Fannie Lou Hamer, whose birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks here. And she talks about the Mississippi appendectomy. It was so common that they had a name for it within that space. And prior to Roe being overturned, and I will never forget the day that Roe was overturned, and I saw hundreds of thousands of people take to the streets. We were, I was in the Capitol at that time, and the Black Maternal Health Caucus. We wrote an open letter. And we wrote an open letter because we wanted to remind people that before Roe was overturned, this was a really unjust landscape. Roe was leaving a lot of folks behind. And we never saw the level of turnout when you think about the preventable deaths that we see. Because when we see nationally that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause, and then you look around some of the states that Planned Parenthood is in, that I'm responsible for, in Iowa, 6 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause, which really shows you that in the states with the most restrictive abortion bans, we see the worst health outcomes. And so I want to lift up that history piece and what you talked about. It all boils down to control. This is all about control. It always has been.
And so let me have you sit with that for a second, Sister Ruth and Dr. B. What then is our obligation? What then is our strategy and our path? I think part of this has to be educating ourselves, equipping our own people with a vocabulary that allows us to decipher, decode, and to actually create a new narrative, a new story, a new vision, words that emanate from our sense of justice, dignity, our sense of purpose, and the divinity that we represent, our commitment to all humanity.
Yes.
What can we do to continue to propagate, to engender, awareness in and among our people, believing that that foundation really motivates the all?
Yes, education is a key part of that. And next year's Black and Brown Birthing Summit is going to be held on September 17th through the 19th. So folks should get that on their calendar, because education is key. And to Dr. B's point, also equipping people with the language to really understand what is at stake. And education is a key component of it, but the research is also key as well, because you will hear people tell you all the time, you cannot solve for things that you are not measuring. So if you don't know what truly is going on, you're not in a place to really be able to solve. And so it's also going to be about breaking down the silos, because right now there are deep silos between who's doing the work every day within community, between the research, like who's doing the research, because who gets to decide what the questions are that you're researching? Because if they're not done in collaboration with community, you're probably asking the wrong questions. And then also thinking about how that connects to the policy. and really thinking about how we are equipping people to show up in spaces that they historically have not shown up at, right? Maybe it's testifying, getting people prepared to testify at the Capitol around issues that are very important to them, teaching them about the process of how bills are made, and getting bills passed and getting great policy in place is wonderful, but it's only the first step. There also has to be the active community holding people accountable, because you pass a bill, but then people implement those bills. And if you are not paying close attention to how they are implementing those bills, they either won't be, or they'll go off track in terms of what the original intent of those bills were. And then it's also important to think about the fact that within one election, people can be trying to change things. When I was in the House, there was a lot of work that I did around ending the push out of our students in schools. There are people who are now trying to undo all of that work. So it's that important piece that passing the bill is a great first step, but it is it's the obligation of community to continue to show up and to continue to have these dialogues, these education, and to also hold folks accountable.
I heard a report yesterday, I think on either Sirius or some other place I listened to, but it was a reference to a statement by Coretta Scott King, who said that, the gains we have made are not permanent, and if we don't stay engaged, then we will lose them and lose them more quickly than the effort it took to gain them. So the challenge is to understand that transformation is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing, forever. And it's a way of being and knowing that's different.
That's right.
Freedom is won in every generation, right? It's our obligation to hold our place in that link of
Dr.
freedom.
B, final word is yours.
I guess the final word is, once again, I believe in the power of our voices collectively. I believe that today, coming here, bringing it, Sister Ruth, I'm telling you, I believe this is the year of the Black woman, to show the world how to be, how we be healthy, how we be strong and successful. And in that, I say thank you again for bringing your whole self to everything you do. And we will say thank you to everybody today who joined us on this most glorious Black woman healing circle. I'm putting this out everywhere because you showed up. So we'll drop the mic.
All right. Take care. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane, the Healing Circle. We'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ruth.